What's happening, everybody? What's the vibe in Tuscaloosa ahead of the huge top 5 matchup between Georgia and Alabama? We'll check in with Ryan Fowler and find out how the Tide faithful are feeling.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com today to get started. All right, we're going to talk with Ryan Fowler, head out to Tuscaloosa, and get the vibe from the Alabama fans. But first, we got to dive into it. Let's do this. Let's go around the conference.
Boots out to the right. Takes the handoff. What a catch!
Around the conference.
And we start with that Alabama-Georgia matchup as Greg McElroy sharing his thoughts on SportsCenter about this big matchup. And he's got a big question about Georgia ahead of this game. He's curious about Georgia's defensive line. They are banged up. They've got some injuries there. He's also wondering about that Georgia secondary versus the Alabama wide receivers. But he said if that defensive line does not do what they need to do, Jalen Milroe could have a field day. Here's what McElroy said. He said, matchup of strengths versus strengths, and that's what you want. The number 2 team in the country playing the number 4 team should be a good matchup, that's for sure. First thing I'm looking for with Georgia, how healthy are they? They got a couple guys banged up on the defensive line, which could apply pressure to Jalen Milroe. That's the first thing they got to figure out. The second thing, what's the deal with Georgia's secondary at the moment? He went on to say that true freshman Ryan Williams, he is a dangerous threat flying down the field. He said right now, statistically speaking, they do look excellent. I think they have really good players on the back end, but that was a position group that they had to replace a lot of pieces this offseason from last year's team. So I haven't quite found out, at least through the first few games, if they've adequately done that. Bama, they do have weapons at wide receiver, like the freshman phenom Ryan Williams. Jalen Milroe is great at throwing the deep ball as well. So I think Bama's receivers against that secondary and the health of the Georgia defensive line, those are the pivotal storylines heading into Saturday's game. We'll talk about some of that with Ryan Fowler here coming up in just a little bit. Over Tennessee, they are celebrating a ratings success on top of the big win, 25-15 win over Oklahoma. Tuesday, ESPN ABC announcing that the game was a hit. Drew 6.3 million viewers for Oklahoma's first introduction into the SEC. It was the most watched program of the day among 18 to 49-year-olds, 18 to 34-year-olds, and proves how great for TV that Tennessee is. They are fun to watch. At its peak, the game drew 7.5 million viewers, and Tennessee earned a marquee victory on their resume to go with the win over NC State just a couple of weeks ago. A few other tidbits here over at Tennessee. Josh Heupel, he obviously got the big win, and he was named the Bear Bryant Awards Fan Favorite Coach of the Week for his win in Norman. Fourth-year head coach was overcome with emotion in his post-game speech, still trying to kind of downplay how much it meant for him to go back there to Norman where he played and where he was an assistant coach. But Saturday was Tennessee's 10th win over a ranked opponent under Josh Heupel's tutelage. And Vols have a bye week before they hit the road again in week 6 to face Arkansas in Fayetteville. On the other side, Oklahoma, Brent Venables made it official on Monday. We talked about that already, naming freshman Michael Hawkins is starting quarterback for this road game at Auburn this weekend. But the Oklahoma head coach further explained his decision to start Hawkins over Jackson Arnold. Hawkins replaced him in the first half of the loss on Saturday night. Venables said, didn't want a decision like that to hang over anyone's head. Jackson's going to have an amazing future and a career. He's going to play this game a long time. He went on to explain that the in-game change, he said, just didn't feel like we were making good decisions within the scheme. Certainly there were lots of issues, for lack of a better word. Jackson Arnold struggled, going just 7 of 16 for 54 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception. Also had a fumble. So Sooners going to try to regroup here. Venables meeting with reporters on Tuesday, hitting on a number of topics. And he said, look, I did not love the play design whatsoever offensively for us. It's not what we practiced. It's not what we called. We have some miscommunication, and we turn a guy free, and he tackles us in the end zone. So that's what we get, and it will continue to happen if we do not do a better job moving forward. Looking forward to seeing what Michael Hawkins can do. Over at Auburn, they are coming off of their 24-14 loss to Arkansas, and Hank Brown and Peyton Thorne turned the ball over. Hugh Freeze obviously didn't mince words earlier this week talking about his quarterbacks. He said, I know there's people open, and I know that we're running the football. We got to find a guy that won't throw it to the other team. Got to find running backs that hold on to the football. Scheme is what most everybody in the country is running, some sort of it, but you got to have a good quarterback in whatever system you are going to choose. Peyton Thorne saying, I try my best not to pay too much attention to stuff that's said to the media by anybody, because being in it as long as I've been in it, still kind of short time compared to some people or a lot of people. But when you say stuff to the media, it's not always true. So Peyton Thorne, wait to see if he will be the guy to get the start this week, or will it be Hank Brown? Find out. Over at Texas, Arch Manning made his first collegiate start as Texas whipped up on Louisiana Monroe 51-3. Former five-star prospect threw his first career interception on the first drive. Later through another pick. Steve Sarkisian talking with the media this week. He said one thing that Arch did really well a year ago after that pick, that might have taken him a minute or two to rebound. I thought he responded really well mentally. Thought his poise and composure was really good. Even after the pick at the end of the first half, to come back in the second half, play the way he did in the third quarter, I thought was impressive for me from a maturity standpoint of how far that he has grown. Aside from the picks, Manning did throw for 258 yards and 2 touchdowns. Waiting to see what the status of Quinn Ewers will be this week. Sounding like, at least feeling like, it's going to be Arch Manning getting the start again against Mississippi State in Texas's opener in SEC play. Over at LSU, offensive lineman Will Campbell was recognized as the National Player of the Week by the Outland Trophy. LSU put up 34 points in their win over UCLA. Will Campbell graded over 80 in both his pass and run blocking, a 90.1 pass blocking grade, according to the advanced metrics there. So the 6'6", 320-pound junior, he earned preseason All-SEC and preseason All-America honors, and big piece of what LSU wants to do there in shoring up that offensive line. Over at Florida, Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway, in a unique situation where Billy Napier is playing both. During an appearance on SEC this morning, Graham Mertz said he and DJ Lagway are truly friends at heart. They also share a goal of winning every game. He said it goes back to, we care about this place. We want to win, so we're going to do whatever we can to do that. As for his first impressions of Lagway, Mertz praised him, saying he's got a humble approach, something that's always influencing other young people. He said ever since he came in here, just his humility and his approach, just going about it day by day and trying to grow a little bit every day. It's been awesome. Florida has got a bye week this week before they get a big one against Central Florida on October 5th. Over at Arkansas, they had a nice response to Hugh Freeze's claims on his coach's show on Monday night. Hugh Freeze saying that he hopes Arkansas wins out, but if they played each other again, Auburn would beat Arkansas 9 of 9 more times, or 9 more times if they played a 10-game series. So Arkansas took to social media with an interception for Jaden Johnson, saying that's a pick 9 times out of 9 for Jaden Johnson with an emoji. So kind of funny there, poking some fun at the comments from Hugh Freeze. But Arkansas, they got the last laugh, they got the win, and that's what matters most, going on the road and winning at Auburn. So congrats to them. All right, there you have it. You're all caught up going on around the conference. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, we're going to talk with Ryan Fowler. You don't want to miss that. We'll get his thoughts on what's going on in Tuscaloosa ahead of this big home game against the Georgia Bulldogs. That's next. Well, first, I want to remind you guys about our new sponsor here, Roy. If you have not checked out the Roy app, you got to check it out. And we're going to highlight our Roy Player of the Week. Roy is a new platform that lets fans make contributions directly to your favorite athletes. You can download the Roy app for iOS or Android Enter our referral code Locked On, and you will automatically be entered into a sweepstakes to win $5,000 cash. No purchase necessary, void where prohibited. And this week we have selected from the Arkansas Razorbacks, TJ Metcalf. He is our player of the game because we're giving him $100 on Roy. If you were impressed as we were with his performance on Saturday, you could show him some love too. You just go to the Roy app, you throw in a couple of bucks, and if everyone pitches in just, say, $10, it adds up fast for a guy like TJ Metcalf. So now you have a chance to show your appreciation for Metcalf or whoever your favorite player is for their standout performance this week, as well as what he will continue to bring to your program. Get off the sidelines and into the NIL game with Roy. Download the Roy app and see what they got going. It is really, really cool stuff. Also, over this episode presented to you by our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. When you are hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for your role. That's why you got to go check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has all the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. And LinkedIn is not just a job board. They are going to help you hire professionals you can't hire or can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users do not visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional over on LinkedIn. Go post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Go post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. It is linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Continue on here, Locked On SEC, and it's been a while since we've had this guy on the show. We see him every year at SEC Media Days, and he's become a big rock star down there in Tuscaloosa, and he joins us now. He is our buddy Ryan Fowler from Tide 100.9 over there in Tuscaloosa. And Ryan, first off, man, good to get you on. It's been a long time since we talked, and man, oh man, you guys have got a monster game coming up there this weekend in Tuscaloosa. What's the vibe right now like over there in Tuscaloosa?
Off the charts, literally off the charts. It is crazy. I've been doing radio here in Tuscaloosa since 2000, part-time. So I got to give credit to Nick Saban. When he arrived, we went full-time from an hours perspective, went to the afternoon. And I've been in the afternoons probably 16, 17 years, something like that. This is off the charts when you talk about the excitement, when you talk about the energy. It's just another level. I mean, it is the town, like on a early in the week, is buzzing. I mean, we haven't even made it to, closer to game time, and it's off the chart. Everybody in town, as you guys know, President Trump's going to be here in Tuscaloosa. Several big politicians are going to be here. I debated. I sent an invitation to Kamala. And I thought we'd just do the debate at halftime. We could just do the debate. I mean, who needs Fox News or CNN or ABC? We'll just do it at midcourt, at midfield, and we'll turn it into a debate. But it's going to be off the charts. And that's what you and I do. What we're able to do. I mean, we love our job. We're able to do all these different things, and I mean, this is why you do what we're able to do. This is why we get into the world of sports and to be able to cover big events like this. And, Kirby is, Nick Saban has been his kryptonite. We'll see if Kalen DeBoer can continue that tradition.
Yeah, that's going to be my next question. What's kind of been the vibe so far on Kalen DeBoer so far? A couple of games in, obviously a really nice, impressive road win at Wisconsin. Now, I don't know how many people have talked about the fact, Tyler Van Dyke did leave that game early. I would have liked to have seen what he would have done had he stayed in that game healthy, but nonetheless, a convincing win for Alabama on the road. But what's the vibe been kind of for Kalen DeBoer so far, a couple games into his Tide coaching tenure?
All right, if you don't mind, let me go back to when Nick Saban resigned here at Alabama. And I hope I'm not giving the wrong guy credit, but I was actually talking to, y'all's friend, John McClain. I was on the air with John McClain, okay? And John's a veteran guy, so he understands, all these different things. And I was live on the air, and he was explaining about D'Amico Ryans, and he was talking about this, he was talking about that, and I stopped him in his tracks. I said, John, hold on a minute. we've got major breaking news. And I said, I wanted to double check just to make sure that Chris Lowe's tweet was not from a fake account because, when we're live on the air, we see something go across. We don't ever know if it's real or fake. I stopped him in his tracks and he said, this must be big. And I said, it is. 17 years, Nick Saban has told ESPN he is now retiring from the University of Alabama. And he goes, well, sounds like you're not going to be talking about the Texans. You've got plenty to talk about. And if you would have told me at that point that I would be in this type of frame of mind, that whoever it was going to be able to step in and do this type of job, I would have said, sign him up. Because Kalen DeBoer has been able to navigate every step, whether it's recruiting. People said, well, he can't recruit the South. He's not going to be able to go find assistant coaches. And every chance he's had, he's proved that opportunity that, hold on, I'm the guy. I'm the guy. For one, to lead UW, to be able to walk out where they were already calling him the next Don James, because what he was able to do and to be able to flip the script. UW's got a long history, and we go back to the 20s with the University of Washington. For him to step into this role and to be able to navigate this madness that is the University of Alabama football program, I think is simply amazing. To be able to get Jalen Milroe, obviously you guys know a ton about him from the state of Texas, to be able to make that next step, that big jump. It's just been fun to watch him, to be able to navigate this. And he's been respectful. He's been confident, but he hasn't been arrogant. There's a combination. He's been the guy that it's just been fun to get to know him, who he is. I've already had him on in 9 months, more than I ever had Nick Saban on. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but as far as a media friendly, we hit the lottery. From a coaching perspective, media availability, we talk to every assistant coach. We talk to every coordinator every week. We get them every week. Every week we talk to every assistant coach. I mean, that's just compared to Coach Saban, there was one voice. So from our perspective, I'm biased, but then you got to look at on the field. He's been able to do some things offensively that I thought Alabama needed to be able to incorporate, and they just were not able to get there under Tommy Rees or even Bill O'Brien. I know that's not a friendly name out in Texas, but Alabama was not able to get there offensively under those two previous, offensive coordinators. They have been able to do it under Kalen DeBoer, and I'm kind of excited to see this big challenge and see the barometer where this team stacks up.
Give me your assessment of Georgia so far. I mean, they had a nice, week one test against Clemson. It was close at the half, and then they just blew the doors off them in the second half. And then that weird game where they went out to Kentucky and won by 1 point, and then they had the bye week, so it's the last time we saw them. But I can't help but think, Ryan, Georgia does this. They've done this each of the last few years. 2 years ago at Mizzou, they played a close game, had to pull it out late in the fourth quarter. Last year against Auburn, they went to the fourth quarter, and Brock Bowers turned it on. So I'm almost willing to chalk it up. A lot of people are thinking, oh, maybe that's the chink in the armor. Look at they played this close game at Kentucky, and Kentucky's not good. So Georgia, are they coming back down to earth? Part of me says you're going to get Georgia's best shot this weekend, right?
Yeah, I think Georgia will come to play, but I mean, you've got to go through the metrics. Now, was Georgia, is Alabama Georgia's kryptonite, or was Nick Saban Georgia's kryptonite? I mean, he was 1-5, but Georgia's lost 8 out of the last 9 games to Alabama. So it's not just Kirby Smart. It was 8 out of the last 9. When you look at Georgia, they've been undefeated in the last 3 seasons against everybody else, and they're 1-3 against Alabama. So when you start kind of going through these numbers, the favor Alabama, but are they going to be able to flip the script? Now, I can say this. You and I, we love to do radio, and I'm going to tell a little secret on us. Chaos kind of pays the bills, right? I would love to do radio in Athens on Monday if Alabama beats Georgia, because I don't know what they're going to say, because because they've now convinced themselves that it was a Nick Saban problem. If Kalen DeBoer beats them in year number 1, and also keep in mind that he's 12-2 against top 25 teams. So he's a big game coach. So was Kirby Smart. So something's got to give. But when I look at the Dogs, I don't see the offensive weapons that Georgia has had in the past. Whether you look in the backfield with Etienne, or if you look at the wide receivers, the tight ends. There's no Lad McConkey. There's no Brock Bowers. Are they going to be able to make up for that? But the defense looks the same. But I think what we're doing in this game, if my prediction holds, it's not just a one-game thing. I think this is what we're going to be talking about for the future. And it's all about who do you believe in. Offensively, Kalen DeBoer is a step ahead of the competition. We saw that last year with UW. We're already seeing it with Jalen Milroe in this Alabama offense. Is offense, does it beat defense? They always say defense wins championships. We saw the little bit of that in the latter part of the Nick Saban era that, offense has really been kind of take over. Because I think this is something we're going to be talking about. It's Sark out in Texas against Kirby Smart, offense against defense. Now you get a chance to see if Kalen DeBoer can live up to that expectations offensively. But the other part is the trenches. I don't know if Georgia, from my eyes, they don't look in the trenches as strong as they've been in the past. They look like they're okay in some of the, the front seven guys, the linebackers, the secondary. But I don't see in the trenches, and especially with a major injury of one of their top offensive linemen that should, according to everything that's been coming out of Athens, he's a no-go for this game. Now, you never know if, Kirby's got to put that on the injury report at some point. Tomorrow will be released by the SEC. But from a standpoint of that, I look at this and look at this Georgia team. They're vulnerable in some areas, but so is Alabama. Alabama, played okay against Wisconsin, but they give up a lot of rushing yards. If Georgia wants to lean on that and kind of play old Nick Saban ball, play great defense, run the football, there's some probably money to be made against that Alabama front.
More with Ryan Fowler here in just a second, but I want to remind you guys, today's episode is presented to you by our friends over at FanDuel. And look, if you're an NFL fan, a college football fan, you could start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. And you can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. If you've never used FanDuel before, go check them out. They got all the big lines up there right now. We just mentioned Georgia -2.5 at Alabama. You can also take advantage of some other ones. If you like Auburn as a 2.5-point favorite or a home underdog against Oklahoma, you can get in on Auburn plus the 2.5. You can get in on Arkansas plus 3.5 in Dallas against A&M. Or if you like Kentucky, to keep it a little bit closer with Ole Miss, 17.5-point underdogs right now over at FanDuel. Check them out right now. It is FanDuel.com. Download the app. It is FanDuel.com. Continue our conversation here with Ryan Fowler with 100.9 in Tuscaloosa. And Ryan, it's interesting as we get into more in this matchup. I've been wowed by Ryan Williams. I mean, it's been crazy. I remember hearing about his recruitment, and he's 17 and he's going to reclassify and he's going to join the Tide. Now I'm going, what is this kid doing? Yes, Bama has a need at wide receiver and they could use a big time playmaker, but I'm just kept thinking, I mean, some of those guys on the roster already, Kobe Prentice, I mean, he's not going to beat some of those guys out. And man, ever since he got on campus, he has been impressive. What have you liked most about the freshman phenom? And I mean, he's been unguardable so far.
Well, and listen, for us from a media perspective, they bring him in the media room and he sounds like you're talking to an NFL veteran. And a lot of that goes back to his father playing, at the college level, being a very productive player, guiding his son, understanding that his skill set is pretty unique. He's had great people around him, but it's how he handled that. I mean, he's supposed to be a senior in high school. Instead, he's playing in, one of the toughest, college football programs. But the real challenge is, how do you go up against Georgia? How do you face that defense? Because, a little different physicality than Western Kentucky, South Florida, and Wisconsin. Is that pressure jamming him off the edge? But if you try to cover him, and we saw this, the way that Kalen used him, brought him on the inside, matched him up against the safety, and it was, Johnny Bar the door. Man, it was over. I mean, he beat him. There was no chance the safety was going to cover. This guy's got natural speed. But if we started hearing this, I mean, it's not just a freshman but it's a freshman that enrolled late. He was not an early enrollee. He didn't go through spring, but it's just how he's been able to navigate that. And that was Kalen DeBoer's first win. I came on the air. I had Ryan Williams on the air. I talked with this young man, and I kept getting text messages inside the building that they were listening to him commit. He'd already committed, but he went on National Signing Day and did a show. And I went, that guy can be the same as Julio Jones was to Nick Saban. He kind of gave that stamp of approval for Nick Saban in 2008. I think Ryan Williams can be that type of guy for Kalen DeBoer. He was that first stamp of approval going, whoa, I believe in this offense. I believe in the direction that this offense is going to be able to take. I think Ryan Williams can be a big part of this game too. But they're going to have to take advantage. Who is the wide receiver that can open up the intermediate throws? Because the tight ends have had to stay in for some of the blocking protections because the offensive line has been a little bit shaky, they've not been able to get those guys involved. Will they be able to do it this week? The offensive line played much better at Wisconsin, but Georgia's a different animal. Are they going to have to keep those guys in to help the edge, those two tackles, or are they able to use those tight ends? We saw Josh Cuevas, which is the transfer from UW, catch that big, I think it was a 37-yard touchdown pass right down the seam. That was probably something that you're going to put on tape a little bit. I think tight end, when you look at Kalen DeBoer's offense, you've got C.J. Dupree, you've got Josh Cuevas from UW, but you've got some other tight ends that they can really use. And I still don't think we've only seen a taste of what this offense is capable of. But I think, keep your eye on guys like Jeremy Bernard, a wide receiver transferred from UW, Kendrick Law, and all of those guys can open up Toby Prentice because of Ryan Williams, because he can take the top off of any defense. Speed transfers, and it transferred with Ryan Williams, and you're already seeing that early on. But I never thought that this young man at 17 years of age, a senior in high school, a reclassification kid, able to lead the team in receptions, touchdowns, and yardage. I never thought he would do that. I thought he would make a quick impact, but I never thought he would make this quick of an impact. This young man's impressed me so far.
Yeah, and if you listen to Greg McElroy on SportsCenter yesterday, he was saying, Georgia's DBs, they've got some new guys in there, but they haven't really been tested yet. This will be an interesting test to see these Bama receivers against those Georgia DBs, and the roof is going to, the roof is going to come off that stadium. Hyperbole, there's no roof, but you know what I mean. If they hit a big pass play. All right, moment of truth, Ryan. Just a couple minutes left here. How do you see this one playing out? I've been kind of saying all week I'm leaning a little bit Bama just because I think being a home game, college game day, Nick Saban back on campus. I mean, there's a lot of things working in Alabama's favor right now.
Well, and also think about a Jalen Milroe type quarterback is generally what gives that 3-4 defense that Kirby. How do I know? Because I saw it so many times in Tuscaloosa give Nick Saban fits. I mean, just that mobile quarterback. And think about the SEC title game. I'm not trying to downplay Georgia, but Georgia was headed for 3 in a row. I mean, they were going for 3 national titles, which had never been done in the modern era of college football, in the AP era. I think you'd go back in Minnesota in the late 20s, early 30s, and somebody won 3 in a row. They were in this crash course to go win 3 in a row. And Alabama and Jalen Milroe put a hurdle in front of that. I think the same thing happens this weekend. I think Alabama wins this game, but just kind of keep in mind the place kicker is a transfer from Miami of Ohio, but he missed that big kick against Wisconsin. Kicking at Alabama, kicking at Miami of Ohio, even though he was the Lou Groza Award winner. Matter of fact, he beat out Will Reichard, which was the Alabama kicker that broke the NCAA all-time scoring leader. Just kind of keep an eye on that. That could be an edge that maybe favors Georgia, because I want to see him kicking a big game. Not against Ball State or Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan. Kicking against Georgia, number 2 team in the country. Kind of keep an eye on that, because that could be favoring the Georgia Bulldogs. But I like Alabama to win 3-4 points, something like that. I think this game's going to come down to the final couple of minutes. But I think at the end, I think Jalen Milroe prevails.
Yeah, I heard. I listened to a little bit of your show earlier, and you were taking predictions. I think one caller had Bama winning 42-19. I thought that was interesting.
And I went, whoa, yeah. I think I wrote that down, and I went, yeah, not really. But listen. Okay, I'm gonna tell you this. Okay, Alabama fans, will take Alabama over Jesus and the 12 disciples. Okay. I promise you. I mean, Jesus could be out there with 12 disciples, even though you can't play with the 11. He would be out there and they would take the 12. Okay. I mean, they would take Alabama to upset Jesus and the disciples. I mean, it's just, so you can't ever put score predictions in their mind because they love to pick Alabama. Rightfully so. Nick Saban's may have looked very, very smart the last few years.
No doubt about that. It's going to be an awesome game. It's going to be the biggest game. You know, we've been counting down to this one since all off season. So massive game there in Tuscaloosa. He is Ryan Fowler, 100.9, the Tide there in Tuscaloosa. Ryan, let everybody know where they can find you.
Hey, Tide109.com, 2 to 6. You can also find me on Twitter and find me on Facebook. If you're a guy that loves Alabama football, we have a lot of fun on our Facebook account. Just do a simple search for my name. And hey, Chris, it's always good to catch up with people that love college football the way that we love it in Tuscaloosa, man. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the Crimson Tide. And who knows, we might be talking about Alabama, Texas, or Alabama, Texas A&M here in a few weeks, man. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate the time, man.
You're more than welcome. Thank you.
All right, there he is. That's Ryan Fowler of 109, the Tide in Tuscaloosa. Does a great job and always enjoy talking college football with him. Yeah, that line at FanDuel sitting at 2.5 right now. Georgia minus 2.5 still as a road favorite. Alabama, home underdog in Tuscaloosa. That doesn't happen very often. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On SEC. Thank you guys for making us your first listen every day. Remember to subscribe if you haven't yet on our YouTube channels. We continue to build that side along with the audio side on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And hey, for your second listen, you can check out Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin talking all the biggest sports stories in the world of college football. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Come on back and see us.